Is there anything more demoralizing than seeing your community members cancel, leave, or unsubscribe, and they don't even tell you why they're leaving? Ugh, such a demoralizing experience. However, this experience is inevitable. So we need to figure out, number one, why it's happening, and number two, what it's there to teach us. We cannot eliminate community churn totally. In fact, if we do that, we've actually created something that's much more like a cult than it is like a community. You have to promise me that you're not going to use this video or anything that I ever teach you to create a cult, because that is not what we're doing here. We need to create open doors and windows. So let's talk about how to reduce and not eliminate churn over time. First, let's begin with the basics. What is community churn? Community churn is simply the percentage of your membership that is leaving over a given period of time. So this is typically calculated as the percentage of your overall membership that has lapsed. Maybe they've canceled, or maybe they've just stopped participating, stopped logging in over a time period such as week over week, month over month, quarter over quarter, or year over year. If you run a membership community, these are the portion of your members that stop paying their membership dues in a given time period. That means it's an actual existential threat to your business success, and you need to be looking really closely at churn. We generally want to see community churn kept pretty low. I'd like to see it less than 10% in any community that I'm looking at month over month. But no matter where you are right now, you're going to be setting a baseline, and your goal is to reduce that number over time, that ratio of members who are leaving compared to those who are sticking around and those who are actually joining and continuing their membership over time. Now, why do people churn? What can we learn from it? And most importantly, what can we do about it to make it change? Now, there's not a ton of academic research out there, but there is one particular study that I'm going to be talking about in this video, as well as information from my over 15 years of experience building and managing communities. This study is called Why Lurkers Lurk. It's created by Blair Nonecki and Carol Priest. It was actually published in 2001, but I guarantee you that the information in this paper is still just as relevant today as it was back then. There are 6 most common reasons why people churn that are identified within this study and that I've seen in my own work as a community builder. Number 1 is actually what's known as healthy churn. This is when someone is either not a fit for your community, or they've come to your community, reached their goals, and they're ready to move on. This is actually a really healthy thing, and you need to let them go if they're ready to go. Now, there's many ways you can talk about continuing to engage them over time, bringing them on as mentors, alumni, etc., etc. But the truth is that either one of these groups is perfectly healthy. Number 1, not everyone is going to be a fit for your group. It's just not going to be possible for you to be everything to everyone. And number 2, people should come to your community, they should achieve their goals, and they should be ready to move on and move into whatever is next for them. When someone leaves because they've achieved their goals, I highly recommend you reach out to them, grab a testimonial, get a case study, get their story, and continue to stay in relationship with them. Just because they're not in your community anymore doesn't mean they shouldn't be someone that you stay friends with. The number 2 reason why people churn is personal reasons, and these have nothing to do with your skills as a leader, as a creator, as an entrepreneur. It could be because people are shy. They find that communities online just aren't what they're looking for, aren't what they need right now or ever, or that they even might have trouble like speaking English or keeping up with the kind of content that you have created. Maybe it's not at their level. This has nothing to do with anything that you're doing as a leader, but there are some things we can talk about doing and changing to make your community more accessible to more folks. Number 3 has to do with community dynamics. In these cases, people churn because they feel like they're not making the connections that they had hoped to make within your community. This is a major issue and something that you should learn from and solve for as soon as possible. People join communities not only to make progress, but to make progress alongside connection. Because you can make progress in many, many ways. You can take a course, you can read a book, but a community is really about connecting to other people while you're making that progress, while you're learning. And if they're not connecting to the other people, then they can go off and start reading another book or doing something else. They don't have to spend time in your community. The 4th reason is the actual characteristics of the community are deterring them from wanting to participate. Again, this is a major issue, usually having to do with user experience, and this is something to resolve as soon as possible. This could manifest as poor content quality. The technology could be poor and the experience could be poor for your members. It could be that you have too much content or way too little content. People either can't keep up with it or they just don't see the value of checking on one thing every month. It could be that there's poor moderation or that there's no response or a delayed response to their questions. So they find that there are other places they can go in order to get the information that they need. it's critical that you go back to why it is that you're building the community that you're building and figuring out which of these user experience issues you can then resolve to fix that and continue to move on with your why, or to figure out which of these things you're just not going to change and you're going to have to make peace with and know that that churn is going to continue to happen. The fifth reason why people might churn is because it's too confusing and your community is actually overwhelming people. I see this all the time, especially in membership communities, because people think if I just create more for people, that they'll learn more, be more satisfied. And this is simply not correlated. In fact, less is often more in communities. If people are getting 1 to 2 extremely valuable things from your membership, then they're going to actually stick around and be able to rationalize to themselves why it is that they continue to pay their membership dues to be part of this community. Versus if you give them a plethora of things to participate in and do, they actually will feel like they're not getting enough value out of the membership because there's so much that they're not actually learning from. It's important that we take stock of our content regularly, do an audit, make sure that everything we're creating is actually useful, is actually going to help our members make progress. The final reason why people churn is having to do with external conditions. And again, these have very little to do with yourself as a leader, but they do have to do with accessibility and making things more accessible or affordable. So these external conditions can be things like people can't physically afford to be part of the community anymore, or they can't justify it, which is a sales issue, a marketing issue, or that they are too busy. They simply can't find the time, can't make the time. It's not possible for them to participate in the community and get value out of it at this time. Or maybe you run a lot of live events and they can't make any of them work. Potentially they're in Saudi Arabia and all of your events are on Eastern Standard Time and it just does not work for them in where they are in their lives right now. Now, except for that healthy churn, which we talked about first, all of these different kinds of churn can be addressed, can be reduced over time. So I'm going to share with you 3 things that you can do immediately to start to reduce churn in your community today. The first thing you can do to reduce churn is to pre-screen or qualify your community members more rigorously. So what this is actually going to do is it's going to reduce some of that healthy churn that happens when people start to join your community, check it out, and they just find it's not a fit for them. It's going to reduce it because you're going to create friction by creating an interview or creating an application process that people have to go through. That way that those who become part of the community, actually become members, are more likely to be your ideal members and are therefore more likely to stick around. So you might have seen this before, or even filled out an application before for a community. You can see it in the way that Mariah Cause, who is a course creator, does this in her high-ticket hybrid programs. She actually recommends that you send out an application first, that you have people apply to be part of your program before they become part of the actual program and then get added into any kind of community element of your program. What this does is it creates, again, that friction. It makes sure that then she and her team can vet who has applied and make sure that those who become part of the program are much more likely to be successful and to see results. You've probably also seen this in things like coaching agreements. So I was part of a program recently with Topsy Vanden Bosch, and she created this full course program agreement that you had to fill out and sign before you became part of the program. Now, this was critical in ensuring that I stuck around and actually completed the program and participated in the community because it made it really clear what was expected of me. I needed to do to show up really clearly in the community and be a really positive member. Another thing you can do to pre-qualify folks or to make sure that their experience is better once they get in is to ask them about things like their language preferences, their learning styles, how they like to be checked in with, how often they'd like to be checked in with. You can do this through a standardized form right when someone signs up, and then that can help to inform how you check in with them, how you create content in the future. The second thing you can do to reduce churn is to immediately start to increase the number of one-on-one connections that you make with people, the number of one-on-one touch points that happen in your community journey. So this can happen through a personal DM that you send people right when they become part of the community. It can happen through regular check-ins via email privately, regular feedback that you get from folks at key milestones in the course, and celebrating their achievements as they make them. So maybe you create a form that someone fills out when they hit a certain goal or make some specific progress that you've outlined, and then you can actually recognize them and celebrate them once they've hit that goal. These one-to-one touches are so critical because they provide an opportunity for you to deepen your relationship with the members of your community and help them really feel seen, heard, that their presence really matters. That means that they're going to be much more likely to show up and participate over the long run. The third thing you can do to reduce churn is to ensure that you get members connected right away when they join the community. So you can do this through creating things like buddy systems or accountability programs. You can do it through creating many-to-many live events, such as having a roundtable or a mastermind discussion, so that it's not just you up on a pedestal talking at people, but an actual way for your members to meet other members of the community as quickly as possible. When you do events also, do not shy away from sending out lots and lots of reminders and lots of reassurance that even if you haven't attended one of these events before, that you are welcome to be there. It's really important that you reassure people that they're going to be showing up at the right place at the right time and that they're going to belong there once they show up. So after you watch this video, I want you to take a look at how you can pre-screen or qualify candidates more rigorously. I want you to look at how you can have more one-on-one interactions with your members, and I want you to look at how you can ensure that people get connected right away inside of the member journey. Once you've done that, I know you're going to see incredible engagement spikes inside of your community. It's going to be so reassuring, and it's going to keep you wanting to do more and more and more. But I want to caveat all of this, okay? Most importantly, what I want you to know is that when people leave, you need to let them go with grace. And you need to learn from whatever it is that they have to teach you. Okay? Don't hold on to people. Don't not let them leave, because again, not letting people leave a community is a main characteristic of a cult, okay? And we're not creating those. So let them go with grace and learn as you go. Your goal is to reduce churn over time, not to eliminate it entirely. If you like this video and you learned something from it, make sure that you like and subscribe to learn more tips and tutorials about how to build meaningful, authentically connected communities.